So I just had some instant noodles. I'm gonna go make myself some coffee and let's roll this video.
Now I'm far away. These memories still remain.
How's it going, guys? It's your boy Raf. Just in advance, sorry for the audio quality. I am recording from a GoPro. So yeah, back here in the office, back on my night shift. So I figured out I would make a video for you, mainly to keep the channel alive in a way, because I think making videos for me is trying to put a routine in my life. Because so far I've been kind of slacking in life. At least that's how I feel towards myself, where I haven't been doing as much as I really wanted to. So I think making those videos for you guys will help me stay in a routine and hopefully be able to improve myself. But anyways, let's get back into the topic of hitchhiking. I'm gonna try to give you as many tips and advices I've learned over the past year or so, where I've been hitchhiking around. I mean, I haven't done it for long, but when I started it, I literally just went out there because my friend told me to, and then kind of worked, but it was very slow. And later on, as I kept hitchhiking around, it kind of became more fluent and whatnot. Like, there's simple rules which tends to be like it's more common sense and whatnot. So there's few type of things I want to go over first, which may just be more like a common sense, as I said before. But so one of the most important things I would say about hitchhiking is location. It's majority of the times it is about having a good location. Try to find quite a visible location, so you're kind of standing out, but then people oncoming traffic can see you in a good time and then be able to react. Because usually when they are driving, they do have like a split second to actually see you and make a decision, and that's why most of the time they're just going to be driving past. So a good location would be either at a petrol station, where it's quite wide open and there's always a place for a car to pull in, and you know, so petrol stations would be always a good point. And then like a kind of side of the road where there's like a bus stop where they can just pull in. That's always quite a good place. Try to avoid roundabouts. That's one of the things I've learned. Roundabouts are not the greatest places, mainly because there's no place to stop, and then the traffic will split away. So at least that I learned that lesson hard way. Always try to make sure you're not wearing like a black clothing. Like, make sure you don't look dodgy at all. You know, so I basically, whenever I'm hitchhiking somewhere, I always make sure I'm shaved and whatnot. So at night before that, I would probably shave, you know, make sure I look sharp, clean. Try to not wear hoodies or anything which can cover your face, so it's nice, open, and people can approach you. And then there's also a ways of which you can hitchhike, you know, at like petrol station and ask people around, or you could do my way, which is basically just have a sign. Always remember to bring a sign with you. So bring a cupboard, bring a sign, and then bring a pen marker. I always like carry a pen marker with me at all the times. I always keep it in my bag, so that's one of the essential things I would advise everyone to carry when they are hitchhiking. Always carry a pen marker. Because you never know, you know, you're going to be switching a location, and the sign always kind of helps, rather than just start sticking your thumb out, because at least people know which direction you're going. Next thing I want to talk about is the time of day. It's no no-brainer that you should be hitchhiking like first thing in the morning, and the time of the day you always want to go for rush hours, mainly because there's most amounts of traffic. So early mornings is when everyone's going to work, so I think that's usually a time of you should be getting. As also, you always want to get to your desired destination before it gets dark, because otherwise it's kind of hard hitchhiking in the dark, because you look more suspicious to everyone around you, and they feel like they might get attacked from you and whatnot. So it's always that kind of a game, because after all, hitchhiking is quite heavily opinionated. Like, people, if they don't like you, they won't pick you up, so you need to look friendly, and then you need to look approachable. Always, like, as I said, like, always try to carry a sign so people know what you're doing, and you're not there to try to murder them, you know. If they know what you're doing, then they'll most likely approach you. But then there is also one thing where you can rather ask. I think sometimes it might be easier just to go at the petrol station and ask them if they can give you a lift and whatnot, because then it makes it a bit easier, rather than standing there with a sign, which I sometimes like to do. Just, yeah, kind of makes my life a bit easier when everyone's kind of going by, and there's might be few people which will stop by sooner or later, because after all, this is just a number game. The more cars will go by, the more likely someone will stop. So there's one thing about hitchhiking, which I kind of learned later on, is pay attention to the traffic flow and what destinations you're going to. If you're going to a destination which is a bit more rural, like basically where there's not many people, it's more likely your waiting time will increase because of that, because not many people are going to. So I always try to go to big capitals, where, like, big cities, or at least try to make my route to go through those big cities, because most of the people will probably be going that direction, and therefore the waiting time will slightly decrease, because there will be more people coming by and more chances of you getting like a direct lift to wherever you're going to. When you're trying to hitchhike, always try to stay on the motorways, because that's your key destination, like key area. And it's much easier to stay on the motorway and go from petrol stations to petrol station, rather to try to get into a city and leave it. It's much harder. So I think the hardest bit you're gonna find trying to hitchhike is leaving the city. But once you leave the city, the in-between bit is way easier along the line. If you're living in a country or whatnot, or wherever you're going to requires a visa, always make sure your passport can cover it, like you have your visas and whatnot, you know, so you don't get in trouble for on a border, you know, to make things smoother. So always make sure you have like visas and all that paperwork sorted before you do attempt to cross a country, because you may you may find yourself being refused entry to the country. Yeah, so there's a few things you may want to carry with you. As I mentioned before, the best, like the essential things you need to carry is a black pen marker, or some sort of a pen marker. You always find some like cardboard or somewhere laying around, so you don't really have to bring that with you, but always kind of have an eye for one, or just take it with you or whatnot, to make a sign. I always like to carry a sleeping bag or a hammock, a tent or whatnot. You're most likely gonna find yourself in a situation where you're gonna be stuck in the middle of nowhere, absolute nowhere, and the best thing to have is something where you can camp outside, and you know, just so you can sleep throughout the night, because hitchhiking throughout the night is not the greatest idea, because most likely you're going to be stuck there for ages waiting for that lift to happen, but it's probably not going to happen. So best is to wait out through the night and then wait for the first thing in the morning to continue your journey. That's what we did. Like, I always carry my sleeping bag. I think that video might be a bit longer than I thought, but yeah, it all depends. Depends on what country you're going to. Some countries are more friendlier than others regarding hitchhiking. So it's always good to go and check Hitchwiki, which is a web like hitchhiking guide website, which is I will link down in the description of this video. So go check it out. It is definitely worth to check it out and see what they kind of advise you to regarding each country, because each country I find wherever I go, the waiting time increases or decreases depending. So around Europe, let's say, I find that around England and Scotland the waiting time is like quite short compared to like Greece, Italy and Spain seems to be like standing out, where the waiting time does increase, mainly because they don't like hitchhikers and they don't really understand them, and so you will probably find yourself being stuck. But then it all depends on luck. So some people, I've heard some people waited ages in those type of countries, and some just went smoothly as never. So all depends on luck, really, who you find across the way. So I think that's just about what it is. Like most of the stuff I mentioned is just kind of a common sense, but you know, who knows. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Stay safe, travel safely, and I will see you in another video.